Welcome to this explainer, everyone. I want you to start by picturing yourself on your next flight. You've just boarded the aircraft, you're settling comfortably into your favorite window seat, and you're gazing out at the tarmac, getting ready for takeoff. But as you lean in to look at the view, you might notice something kind of peculiar right at eye level, right there in the glass. It's this tiny, almost microscopic dot near the bottom of the pane. And let's be real, for a lot of us, spotting a literal hole in the very thing separating us from the open sky, well, it can feel a little unsettling, to say the least. Why is it there? Is it a mistake? A scratch? No way. Okay, let's dive into this and unravel this everyday aviation mystery to find out exactly what's going on. Section 1. The invisible pressure danger. High altitudes, high stakes. So to truly understand the purpose of this tiny hole, we first have to understand the incredibly intense, invisible physical environment located literally just inches from your face. When an airplane takes off and climbs to its cruising altitude, we're talking about flying thousands of feet up in the air. At this extreme altitude, the atmosphere outside becomes fundamentally hostile to human survival. It's a completely different, unbelievably harsh world up there compared to the safety of the ground we walk on. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive, incredibly dangerous contrast between the inside and the outside of the aircraft. Outside the plane, thousands of feet up, extremely low oxygen and low air pressure. But inside the plane, the air pressure has to be pumped up and kept artificially high. This is absolutely crucial so that you, me, and all the other passengers can breathe safely and comfortably for the whole flight. And that brings us to a massive structural challenge, perfectly summarized by this quote right from our source. Because of the difference in air pressure outside and inside, there is a lot of pressure on the plane's window. Think about that invisible dynamic for a second. You have high pressure inside the cabin constantly pushing outward against the incredibly low pressure of the sky outside. This creates an enormous amount of invisible friction and immense stress directly on the glass that is holding everyone safely inside. If the windows were just standard sheets of glass, like the ones in your house, we would face a terrifying risk. The intense pressure difference we just talked about would simply be too much to handle. The glass wouldn't be able to bear the load, it would completely shatter, and that would lead to a catastrophic depressurization of the cabin. That immense natural stress poses a massive danger if it isn't properly managed by the aircraft's design. Section 2. The three-layer shield. Engineering a safe flight. But thankfully, aerospace engineers have a brilliant, surprisingly simple solution to manage this pressure and save lives every single day. And this brilliantly illustrates how they do it. The windows on an airplane aren't just a single pane of glass. They feature a special design consisting of 3 distinct layers. You have the inner layer, which is really just a scratch cover to protect the actual window from us bumping into it. Then you have a middle layer, and finally, a super robust outer layer. These 3 separate layers are engineered to work together, heavily reinforcing the window structure against all that intense atmospheric stress.
Section 3. Meet the bleed hole, the tiny hero.
Okay, now that we understand the pressure threat and the 3 layers protecting us, it's time for the big reveal about that tiny dot you've noticed. It actually has an official name, the bleed hole. By definition, a bleed hole is a designated small hole in the airplane window that allows air to pass through. So the crucial point is that this isn't a crack, and it certainly isn't a manufacturing defect. It's a highly intentional opening drilled directly into that middle layer of the window glass we just talked about. Its job is incredibly important. By allowing a small, controlled amount of air to flow through, the bleed hole safely balances the air pressure between the pressurized cabin and the gap between the middle and outer panes. This ensures that the heavy, thick outer pane takes on the massive force of the pressure difference. It completely eliminates the risk of the window breaking by protecting the middle and inner panes from taking on that stress. That makes this tiny little hole a literal lifesaver for everyone on board. Section 4. Clear views and safety. A dual-purpose design. This tiny engineering marvel actually has a second, highly practical benefit that directly affects your viewing experience as a passenger. Let's move to and see how this builds on what we've learned. The bleed hole serves a dual purpose. First, as we covered, it regulates heavy air pressure to keep the window intact. But second, it acts as an exhaust to release light air and trapped moisture. Because a cabin full of breathing passengers creates a lot of humidity, there's quite a bit of moisture inside the plane. By venting this moisture out from between the panes, the bleed hole prevents any fog or condensation from freezing on the glass. It keeps your window perfectly transparent. Which brings us to our final thought. A microscopic hole, practically invisible to the naked eye, is the unsung hero standing between you and the extremes of the upper atmosphere. It is absolutely fascinating to think that such a tiny detail not only guarantees our safety, but also gives us a crystal clear look at the clouds. It completely changes how you'll view your next flight, doesn't it? What other tiny, everyday details are hiding massive engineering secrets right in plain sight? Next time you settle into that window seat and spot that little dot, you'll know exactly what a monumental job it's doing. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep your curiosity high, and I'll see you next time.